Have you noticed? Every time you go to the store, it feels like you're spending more and getting less. It's not just your imagination. Prices seem to be going up on everything. Groceries are more expensive. The cost of fresh produce, dairy, and even basic staples like bread and rice has surged. Gas is through the roof. Filling up your tank now feels like a major expense. Remember when you could fill your car for under $30? Those days seem long gone. Even that daily coffee feels like a luxury. But what's behind this? Is it just the normal ebb and flow of the economy, the usual ups and downs that we've come to expect? Or is there something more significant happening behind the scenes? The truth is, it could be due in part to a problem that seems distant but hits close to home, the global debt crisis. This issue, while it may seem abstract, has real-world consequences that trickle down to our everyday lives. But what does global debt have to do with you and your wallet? How does something so vast and complex affect your daily expenses and financial well-being? Well, stick with me, and I'll break down how this complex issue is impacting your everyday life and what you can do about it. We'll explore the connections between global financial policies and the prices you see at the store. By understanding the bigger picture, you'll be better equipped to navigate these challenging times and make informed decisions about your finances. Sovereign debt might sound like something out of a history book, but trust me, it's relevant to your life right now. You might think that the financial dealings of entire nations are far removed from your daily life, but the truth is, they have a direct impact on everything from the price of goods to the stability of your job. In simple terms, it's the money that countries owe to other countries, institutions, or even their own citizens. This debt can be in the form of bonds, loans, or other financial instruments. When a country issues bonds, it's essentially borrowing money from investors with the promise to pay it back with interest. These investors can be other countries, international organizations like the IMF, or even private citizens who buy government bonds as a form of investment. Think of it like this. If a country spends more than it takes in through taxes, it needs to borrow money to make up the difference. This is similar to how individuals might use credit cards or take out loans when their expenses exceed their income. Governments borrow money to fund everything from infrastructure projects to social programs. However, unlike individuals, countries can print more money or adjust interest rates to manage their debt, although these actions come with their own set of risks and consequences. That's sovereign debt, and some countries are in a lot of debt. High levels of sovereign debt can lead to economic instability, making it harder for countries to invest in their future. When a country is heavily indebted, it may face higher interest rates on new loans, making it even more difficult to manage its finances. This can create a vicious cycle where debt leads to more debt, and economic growth is stifled. We're talking about countries like Japan, the United States, and Italy, just to name a few. These nations have some of the highest levels of sovereign debt in the world. For instance, Japan's debt is more than twice its GDP, meaning the country owes more than it produces in an entire year. The United States, while having a robust economy, also carries a significant amount of debt, which has implications for its fiscal policies and global economic influence. Italy, with its long-standing economic challenges, faces its own set of hurdles in managing its debt. As these countries borrow more and more, it creates a ripple effect that impacts the entire global economy, including your finances. When major economies are in debt, it can lead to fluctuations in global markets, affecting everything from stock prices to currency values. This, in turn, can influence the cost of living, interest rates on loans, and even job security. So the next time you hear about sovereign debt in the news, remember that it's not just a distant issue. It's something that can have real, tangible effects on your everyday life. Now you might be wondering, why are these countries borrowing so much in the first place? There are a bunch of reasons, and some are more understandable than others. Think back to the recent pandemic. Governments around the world spent trillions to support their citizens and businesses. That spending, while necessary, added a huge amount to national debts. But it's not just big events like pandemics. Sometimes governments spend more than they take in just to fund their regular operations or big projects. And just like when you rack up credit card debt, it can become a dangerous cycle. Here's where things start to hit your wallet directly. When the government borrows more money, it doesn't just disappear into thin air. It has to be paid back, with interest. And that interest can affect you in ways you might not expect. Think of it like this. If you were a bank, would you feel comfortable lending money to someone who already owes a lot of money to other people? Probably not. The same principle applies to countries. When a country has a high level of debt, lenders start to worry about whether they'll get their money back. Just imagine loaning money to a friend who's always borrowing and never seems to pay it back. You'd start to get a little anxious, right? You might even think twice before lending them more money. And, if you did decide to lend them more, you'd probably want something in return for taking on that risk. That's where higher interest rates come in. When lenders see a country with a lot of debt, they demand higher interest rates to offset the risk of not getting their money back. It's a way for lenders to protect themselves. As countries' debt grows, so do the interest rates they have to pay on that debt. And guess what? This isn't just a problem for the government, it trickles down to the rest of us. Higher interest rates for the government can lead to higher interest rates for everyone else. This means that when you go to take out a mortgage, a car loan, or even use your credit card, you could end up paying more in interest. So the next time you hear about the national debt, remember that it's not just a number on a page. It has real-world consequences that can affect your wallet. Understanding this connection can help you make more informed financial decisions and be better prepared for the future. When governments have to shell out more money to pay interest on their debt, they have less money to spend on things like infrastructure, education, and social programs. This can lead to a whole host of problems, from slower economic growth to job losses. And when people lose their jobs or see their income stagnate, they have less money to spend, which further slows down the economy. It's a vicious cycle. Remember those rising prices we talked about at the beginning? Well, global debt plays a role in that too. When countries print more money to pay off their debts, it can lead to inflation. Essentially, there's more money in circulation, but it's worth less. Think of it like this. Imagine if everyone suddenly had twice as much money. They'd all want to buy more stuff, right? But if there's not enough stuff to go around, the prices would go up. That's inflation in a nutshell, and it can quickly erode the value of your savings and make it harder to make ends meet. You might be thinking, can't countries just print more money to get out of debt? Well, it's not that simple. Printing more money can actually make inflation worse, and it doesn't address the underlying problem of overspending. And believe it or not, countries can and do go bankrupt. It happened to Greece in 2015, and it's happened to other countries throughout history. When a country can no longer pay its debts, it can lead to economic chaos, social unrest, and a whole lot of pain for its citizens. So with all this doom and gloom, you're probably wondering what you can do to protect yourself. Well, the good news is that there are steps you can take to weather the storm. First and foremost, focus on what you can control, your own finances. Create a budget, track your spending, and look for ways to cut back. Build up an emergency fund so you have a cushion if things get tough. And consider diversifying your investments to protect your savings from inflation. Remember, knowledge is power. The global debt crisis is a complex issue with far-reaching consequences. It's easy to feel powerless in the face of such a daunting problem, but it's important to remember that you're not alone. We're all in this together. By understanding the problem and taking steps to protect your own finances, you can weather the storm and come out stronger on the other side. So, here's my question to you. How do you think the global debt crisis will impact your life in the years to come? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a conversation.